This episode is sponsored by EA Game Changers. I want to thank EA for flying me out to LA to cover EA Play 2019.
You're listening to Analog Assault, a video game podcast by Mulehorn Gaming.
So, got a special episode here. We got two special guests. We're just going to start off with some introductions. We're going to go with my friend here, BinaryNumb. Tell me all about yourself, sir. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I'm a fat 32-year-old from the UK.
Who drinks like a sailor.
Drinks like a... I'm starting to sober up, actually, so I need more booze. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate bringing me on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend the last 3 days.
It's been fun, man.
3 days.
We've had a lot of fun. Oh my gosh.
It's been great. Yeah, I'm BinaryNumb, so I'm owner of Anthem Universe. So if you play Anthem, then you may have heard of Anthem Universe. And also Dark Zone Report, which is specifically around the Division. And then there's my own stuff that I do around that as well.
All the things.
All the things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome, man. And we also have a special guest. And bro, I followed you for forever. I seriously think like since we started Mulehorn Gaming, I followed you because I watched your streams and I was like, God, this guy's awesome. It's SayNoToRage. What's up, man?
No, not much, man. Thanks for having me on the show. It's good to be here. We've been hanging out, pretty much every day.
Yeah.
EA Play. And yeah, it's been a good time.
So for the listeners that don't know you, tell us who you are, what you do, and you got some really cool news to share with us too. So I hope you share that too.
Yeah, we'll get to the news, I guess, second part. I'm a full-time broadcaster. I stream on Twitch, built the channel with Destiny, and so I've been partnered for 3 years, streaming for 4. And have recently been trying to get into other sort of things. I use my broadcast to do like a segment, a Q&A segment. It's like a podcast feel.
Yeah.
And I use that to repurpose the content. Try to diversify. I think that's one of the harder things to do on the Twitch platform is to do something that you're not known for. And that's why the podcast format works well. It has more elasticity. So I can go into other games and cover them. And because of that, I took an interest in, actually, the first year I was streaming, I took an interest in covering E3.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had done it for 4 years. So the first year I started broadcasting, I covered E3 on the channel. 2015 was doing like reaction videos to the trailers. And I remember watching Man vs. Game interview somebody.
Yeah.
And I thought, so streamers can go and interview like devs. I want to do that. That'd be really awesome. And so 2 years ago, I went to a workshop that Twitch put on about interviewing and hosting. And then this year, they actually invited me to be one of the official hosts.
Dang, dude. Are you stoked about that? Like, how are you feeling about that, man?
It doesn't feel real. Like, I was there today hanging out for rehearsal, and I'm sitting with people that I, like, respect and admire and look up to.
Yeah.
So I'm in between Ezekiel 3 and Kelly Link. And Anna's there and DJ Wheat's there. And these are people that I learned from at the workshop. And then I look up to them. Like I watch them. I study their craft and how they handle hosting. And it's, I don't know, it's surreal. I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? I'm being punked, aren't I? I'm listening. So I can't wait. The next couple of days, it's probably going to be hard to not be working with them because they're working the early days. And I pick it up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
That's awesome, man. And you're talking about like maybe getting to interview some people that you're really excited to interview, and
yeah, we're not allowed. I obviously can't say anything yet, but the list looks good. There's some pretty
looks good. You're gonna definitely want to tune in then.
Yeah, you'll want people are gonna want to watch. It should be good.
Awesome. So we're here. E3 hasn't started yet, so we're doing all EA Play. So you guys, we've been there. I guess like all day today, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think overall with the whole showcase, everything you've seen out there, the creator cave, stuff we can actually talk about, not the stuff we can't talk about. So what do you guys think? What's your general thoughts? Anything that stood out like to you guys that you saw? George?
Well, for me at the moment, I'm just trying to get over the amount of walking I've had to do.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So some people may not know this, but EA's been very generous. They gave us one day to go to Disney, and like we went just. Well, how many miles did we walk?
Oh, close to 15 miles in a day. Yeah.
Man.
And for a 19 stone man, although you're a stone, you're US, so what's that, like 220 pound man? That is a lot of walking on these pins, I tell you. And it's no different at EA Play either. Like you are constantly walking around everywhere. But I think it's been a pretty good. I think for the first day, it's been a good show.
Yeah.
We got to spend some time yesterday, actually, before it opened, so we got to see and have a look around without so many people. And it's a good show. It's a different vibe this year. Like I've only ever watched it on screen.
Yeah.
But this year has a very different feel to what it did last year. Like there's no Andy Wilson. He's not around. Is he? He's like just skulking off, if counting his money in his cupboard somewhere. They're not even giving him screen time. But you can tell this year is very. They're actually bringing more games and more players to the screen, which is actually quite a nice feel.
Yeah. And
to experience that firsthand as well has actually been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
What about you, bro?
I was impressed with the setup outside. Like I didn't walk far enough when I ran into Destin from IGN. We started talking. We're like, let's get something to eat, because we had some things to talk about. And I didn't go all the way around, so I went back out later, and I couldn't believe the Apex stuff was so cool.
Oh, dude, cool. Did you see the cosplayers walking around?
Yeah,
they had like the Mirage and a couple others that were.
They looked legit. I mean, they looked like the characters. It was very well done. I think my favorite part was they had the statue for the the guy, I forget his name now, the guy that can. I made a joke. I tweeted. I said I took a picture of Real Crafty because that's his favorite character. And then they had the big dinosaur bone head. Yeah. So I walked all the way through, and I was so impressed. It was really, really cool. I mean, because if you're coming in from the public, to us, it might be like white noise. We've been here, we've seen this stuff, we play the games, but for the public to come in and be a part of something like this is really neat. The way they had it all set up. And I was the most impressed by, obviously, the Star Wars game. Oh, yeah, dude. I think it looks phenomenal. Dude, when I saw the, 15 minutes of gameplay or whatever, I was just like, when he did that force pull with the saber, I was like, yes! Well, and the actual hand-to-hand, the combat with the lightsaber looks really good. It does. And there's parrying really good, and combos, and it doesn't look like you can play, you can't play stupidly, is what it looks like. You can't just, swing your saber. Just hack and slash. It looked to me like Force Unleashed, kind of, but with influences from God of War and Uncharted. Yep. So that has me excited, and then seeing skill points showing up on the screen, I was like, okay, this game's going to be good. Yeah. So I think they started off with that on purpose. That was their big... the little tease they were going to throw out there. Yeah. Their big wow moment. Yeah, they started off strong there. And production was phenomenal. I mean, I'm obviously a big fan of Golden Boy, because I look up to him. He's a fantastic host and shoutcaster. And the energy they brought and jumping from each other to, it was very, very cool. I got to talk to him. I told him, I was like, man, you guys did a great job. The energy, the tone, it felt really cool. Yeah. And he said they didn't want it to feel like a stuffy conference. And I was like, it did not feel like that. I think it was very well done. Yeah. Yeah, this was my first time ever here to actually, I mean, as Game Changers, we got to get in a little early. But when we were walking out with the general public and I saw the line to get in, I was like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. It was around the block, and it was just so packed. And George and I at one point were like, man, we're hungry. Let's get some food. There's a couple food trailers that we went over to, and we're like, oh my gosh, these guys have been standing here an hour just to get food. No, we'll go off. We'll go. Even when we left, this must be 4. Yeah, it was 4 o'clock before we even got food. Queuing around the block. Yeah. But it was pretty incredible the way they had the whole setup. It really was a really great setup for production. When you look at the stage, the lights, all the setups for going into the trailers to play the games. They knew it was too hot, so they had extra fans out, so people aren't getting free water for people. So that was pretty cool to see. I think that the coolest thing that I saw was definitely the new Apex stuff.
and Star Wars, man. Like, who's not a Star Wars fan, right?
Right.
And so, like, when I seen that Star Wars stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, that's so freaking cool. And then, first time ever getting to go into, like, the creator cave for EA. Today was like a first of many days for me. I mean, because I've followed you for so long, SayNoToRage and Binary. I've known you for so long, and getting to meet you guys in person. And then to top it off, George over here is like, oh yeah, I know Eric's. I'll introduce you to him. And we got to sit and chat with Eric's for like an hour and a half. And the guy, he's exactly how he is in his videos. He's just such a great dude, puts out such quality content,
Speaks 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, yeah. And then at one point we were sitting down there for like a capture session and for Anthem, and in walks Destin from IGN, and he's like, hey, I need a fire team. So we actually got to help Sherpa him through the Cataclysm. So when you see his footage, that's George and I playing with him, and William from your Anthem playing with him. We got to kind of help him, like we didn't really tell him. You're like, we'll let you figure it out yourself, But it was really cool because I was like, oh man, this is a guy, because, I've always been a big Destiny fan too. It was just really cool because I was like, I've watched this guy on Twitter. I've seen his content. Like, I've listened to his podcasts, and like, I get to like sit here and play a game with him, man. Like,
E3 is a funny place, isn't it?
Yeah.
You spend so many years watching E3 from a distance, and people sometimes forget what experience it is to actually be at EA Play or E3.
Yeah.
And how close you do get to the people that you watch on screen, right?
Right.
Without even thinking about it, you can just walk past the person you watch on stream. Mm-hmm. And then if you get an opportunity to actually talk to them, you actually realise they're actually really nice people.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the meat and potatoes here, because
veg.
Yeah, exactly. So we all have played Anthem at some point, all of us here in the room. So we got a chance to sit down and give some feedback. We can't really go over that particular info, but we did get to play the player test server that's out for anybody that's playing on PC. And there's no embargo on this, so we can actually talk about what we've played. So, guys, what do you think initially about the player test server? Do you like it? What would you like to see changed? Maybe some stuff added? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I thought that the structure was good for the Cataclysm. So from a structural standpoint, I liked it. It was different. The scoring element, the time element, and then knowing that you can up the difficulty to get a higher score, and then that is in relation to like different rewards and things that they're entertaining. Like, they haven't quite figured out the loot aspect and the rewarding aspects yet. Like, they're still, I think, discussing that and accepting player feedback. So from a structural standpoint, I was like, this is good. There, a lot of the problems with Anthem aren't necessarily solved by good content. Because the core gameplay is really, really good. And I think this flows into the core gameplay in a good way, because they had some puzzle things and some elements to it that were things we hadn't done before.
Right.
And then the enemy saturation was good because it was intense. I was like, I could see if you up this to GM 2 or 3, it would be really tough. But then obviously you're getting, the higher points. So I liked it. At this point, I'm just sort of accepting. And I've appreciated their transparency and candor. I mean, I'm not going to quote anybody directly, but they've been very transparent and had very good candor with us about how they know it's a long road ahead. They're committed. This isn't going to get fixed in a patch. And I've been looking to like next year's summer is when the game will have its, like, I call it a Taken King moment. Because we all know that happened with Destiny, right? It took a year for them to kind of bounce the game back. And this is step number 1 that I think Division took. Division did very similar things. They started doing testing and patches and summits and community, feedback gatherings, and then you ended up with Division 1.8, which was basically the framework and the scaffolding that helped build Division 2. And I feel that Anthem is making similar initial steps to make the right improvements, because if they're going to start to go down a certain pathway, they need to make sure it's the right road, because it's clear the rudder on the ship turns slow. And whether or not everything we heard about Frostbite and the development time, how accurate all that is from that article is kind of irrelevant because they're clearly not doing a lot of the changes fast anyway. So I think this is the right way to do it. My concern would have been if they didn't do this, you could turn around in 3 or 4 months and they made a bunch of decisions based on player feedback that either was misinterpreted or misapplied. And it's like, well, you built this entire structure and this entire incentive system that nobody likes.
Right.
So I think the smaller iterations and the public testing and then the feedback sessions with us should really help put the ship not just on the right course, but be very more, I would say, more precise and accurate in what we're actually wanting from the game.
Because I think, maybe I am wrong, but I'm not sure, but I think just the Austin studio is now working on the game. There may be some more stuff still up in Canada that they're doing some stuff with, but I mean, it would fall into that category of like you're spending too much time and resources in something that nobody really wanted, when you could have put in something else like guilds or something like that, So that makes sense. So what do you think, George?
No, that's right. Actually, you mentioned the Division. So I did a lot with the Divisions, and I was part of their whole ETF program. So I was part of the 1.7, 1.8 resurgence. And they spent a lot of time themselves with the community. They brought people from all over the world, put them into a summit for a week, and literally sat in a workshop from literally 8 in the morning till 8 at night, literally going through all those aspects. And it completely turned that game around to the point where, people actually did come back to play it. Mm-hmm. And I really do hope that Anthem will have that moment again, where there is an update where it fixes not necessarily everything, but it fixes and gives people the reason to come back and want to play. And so feedback sessions like we had this morning, and and we constantly have the being game changers. We with NDAs all signed, we have this actual access to be able to spend time with them, go on phone calls, and go through those moments. So, and it's very warming to know that when you meet the developer, they genuinely do want your feedback, and as long as you give that back in a constructive way, then they seem to take it on board. But obviously, as you're saying, it's a big ship, with a very small rudder. There's obviously budget constraints and all sorts they have to contend with. So it is going to be a slow. It is going to be a slow turnaround. Yeah. But what they've got coming with Cataclysm, it's actually a really good update. Yeah. If they can get the loot right, if they can get the reason that you want to play right, I think it's going to be a very, very well received update. Yeah. The gameplay mechanics and the puzzles they're actually fun to do. They're fun to try and do. I played them a couple of weeks back before I went to the public test server, and obviously I had to do it solo because there was no one else actually on the servers, right? Mm-hmm. And even I was still able to do a couple of those puzzles myself, which was actually quite a nice experience. Took me a few attempts, which is where I found the enjoyment from. Right, I was actually having to think, I'm not just going to have to shoot everything all the time. Which a lot of games. If the games always fall into those two traps, right? It's either extremely complex or it's just a bullet sponge. So, it's a very good balance. Yeah, very good balance. It's just unfortunate that not everybody can experience the Cataclysm now. Yeah, it's just PC only. But
yeah, man, I think I felt like my takeaway was that one of the key things I felt like was important with Anthem is like the story and the lore in the story, and that like the actual planet that you're on and it trying to kill you and the mystery of everything of the Anthem. It just fit with the puzzles and trying to figure out stuff like the Cataclysm. What is this? What's going on? Why is this happening? How do I get this to stop? Like, I thought that was a really good first step. Now, like I understand, and for all you guys listening, like, yes, like it is probably going to be very similar. And I've said this from the beginning, very similar like Star Wars Battlefront 2. Like a pretty rough launch. Things will start chugging along slowly, and then once you get the foundation built, you can iterate a lot faster, bring content a lot faster. And it kind of feels like that right now. Because like the Cataclysm's great, and I've really enjoyed it, but I was wanting a little bit more. You know, I know there's going to be a lot of more things that they're going to share with us in the future, and a lot more things we're going to see. But from the standpoint of a start, like, I thought it was pretty good. Now, I just wish deep down inside it could be a little bit faster, because I know how much flack the community's taken about the game, and just how much the devs have had to endure things and things like that. And I just wish there was a way that things could be sped up a little bit, but I know that in reality it's not going to be happening.
Well, see, I think what we also have to remember is the game's only been out. This is its 4th month, right? It's not. You know, Destiny took a year and a half before it was even had its Taken. What was it? Taken King come out 18 months after it was live?
No, it was 1 year.
It was 1 year. Division, that was 18 months, almost 2 years, right?
Yeah.
This game's only been 4 months out, and yes, its rise and fall has happened pretty quickly, but in terms of game development cycle, that's 4 months is just not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Especially where they've had a lot of their stuff that they're having to overcome is a lot of just a steep curve.
Yeah.
That they've got to try and overcome. So, I think if we can have a decent if Cataclysms can be a decent update, and they can make some big changes within the first 12 months, so the next 8 months, I think it's on a really strong salvageable road.
Yeah, I can even say from when they first released the public test server to the public test server we've played here, there's already been a lot of changes. Like the just even the environment. Like originally in the first release before they updated it, there wasn't near as much of like environmental factors. Like you still felt the wind and the lightning and things like that, but it wasn't near as clean or as neat as it is now. Even the boss looks better. The mechanics felt a little bit better. And they've said that this is something they're going to keep iterating on and building on and going from there. And was it Jesse or somebody else was talking about like it's going to be a build up, like it's 2 weeks?
No, so the Cataclysm. So what we're experiencing now is effectively like week 1.
Okay,
right. So that's like the beginning of the Cataclysm, and then we have 4 weeks of increased.
Yeah,
and then the final 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so it's a 6 week program.
Yeah.
So given that what we're experiencing is only effectively week 1 of the live Cataclysm, it's like it would be nice if they did PTS with week 8 or week 6 or whatever it is, the final stage of what the Cataclysm will be.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily need to know the middle, the road in between, but if we could see what A and B looks like in contrast, it would be pretty good.
So is there anything you guys would like to see added in the future, or you think you could say, like if BioWare is listening to this podcast, what would you say to the developers right now of what you would like to see, or maybe you'd like to see with the Cataclysm or in the future?
I mean, we can't obviously go into detail about what we heard and said during the feedback section, but a theme that was present in that feedback section and a theme that's been running throughout since the game has launched is just incentivization. Like there has to be a clear identity of like, what are we doing? Because some of the suggestions we got today, we were talking after, right?
Yeah.
And some of the suggestions we were just like, that doesn't even seem like Anthem. Like that, a person made a suggestion about something and I was like, that doesn't even seem like Anthem. Because to me, Anthem, the identity would be it's like a min-maxing game. So it's about the stats.
Yeah.
Because obviously Destiny comes up a lot whenever we talk about this game, and it came up a lot today. People kept referencing Destiny. And I've always thought Destiny is like a loot-based game, and Anthem's more stat-based.
Yeah.
And
so does Division, right? Division's
yeah.
completely stat-based.
You're not really looking at the loot. The loot's identity is important, but it's not the same. Like in Destiny, the way a gun looks and feels and sounds is part of the immersion and the experience and the appeal. And in a game like Division and Anthem, the abilities and the combos and the numbers that you see coming up, that's more part of the clear indication that you're stronger. And so they have to figure out what's their identity, like what's going to drive the player to keep coming back. Because that's why I said, like, the Cataclysm, the structure is fine. It's good structure. It's good content. Flying around still feels awesome. I immediately enjoy playing again. I'm hitting combos, and I'm hearing the sounds, and I feel strong.
Explosions!
Yeah, combo popping up everywhere.
Intense particles.
Yeah.
But then my brain always immediately goes to, why would I grind? What am I chasing? What am I chasing? What's the point in putting in the hours?
Yeah.
And so that they've got to figure that aspect of it out, because you can throw as much content as you want at us, and you can really figure out how to structure the Grandmaster level so it scales up appropriately. But if I don't understand what my reward is, what's the incentive to play and to grind, I think that's when a game like this can just kind of never really get back up in the starting blocks.
Yeah.
Because this game is supposed to run, the engine of it, and the gasoline and the fuel is that repetition. I'm playing the content over and over again, which is why some of the people today, I don't think they seem to understand, that's part and parcel to these types of games. Mm-hmm. You are running a loop, but the motivation has to be strong enough for you to run the loop.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody has figured it out yet. I think Destiny is close. I think the Menagerie is close to that kind of content that you're going to loop, and it's satisfying, and it lands on a spectrum of player. Even Division 2 is having its own problems right now with people not feeling the drive. You flew through the world tiers, and I don't know if a true hobbyist style looter shooter, a game as service looter shooter, I don't know if we've gotten the pinnacle version of that game type yet.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand maybe why these games struggle, because they in many respects, these are pioneer games. So Destiny and Division and Anthem are pioneering a new concept, a new idea. Because Borderlands is linear, and then you loop it again. And then Diablo is very similar, but then they came out with the seasons. So it's nobody's quite gotten it. I would say Diablo is the closest to having it right. But you don't want every game to be Diablo.
Right. You want it to be its own thing.
Right.
Its own IP, yeah.
It needs to have its own identity. That's why I think Anthem can bounce back, because you experience combat, the core gameplay. I can't get it anywhere else. I cannot play a game.
So freaking good.
Unique.
Yeah, I cannot play a game that feels like this. It makes me want an Iron Man game for real. I mean, we need to get one of those. But I cannot play any game and feel this way. And I think that's something Borderlands does, right? It offers something you can't experience anywhere else. Same with Destiny. And really, it's just about how can you create longevity without it being tedious and trivial, and it almost feels like a hamster wheel. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for games like this. Is the only way you're going to slow down the 9-hour-a-day player is through making it tedious, and if you do that, then you lose everybody else. Because progression, advancement, improving your character just takes way too long, and so people fall off because it doesn't feel like they're making any progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest problem. But in our world, right, where we will spend 6 hours or 9 hours a day playing a game, but we are the 1%, right? And it's being the 1%, we are obviously some of the most vocal, and we have the direct access to the development team. But that other 99% of players are only playing for a couple of hours. I've got friends they love games, but they'll play maybe 2-3 hours a week, right? Which you could say, it's a very tough balance between providing what is good content for us, and content that allows us to then make content or broadcast or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where Anthem does have a unique position to be able to be in that, because it's in such a broken state, or their vision. You can tell that when you're talking to them, or even when Jesse's going on Twitter, they're asking questions, or when Ben he's even on stream, right? You can see it that their actual end vision is very vague, right? They're still trying to understand themselves where they want the game to be. So I think it's going to be an interesting road. For me, for me, I love Diablo. Like Diablo 3, I could play all day. Like Rifts, stick straight on Torment 72, and I'm off. I love it. And if you could touch on that in an Anthem world, like what's the Never-Ending Forest, right? Where it's just constantly. Well, it's not Never-Ending Forest.
Infinite Forest, yeah, in Destiny, yeah.
In Destiny, right? And the Division had it with Resistance, right?
Yeah.
Which did you ever play Resistance? So Resistance was fantastic. You played Resistance?
No, I fell
So
off.
Resistance was fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? That came with 1.8, and that was this massive. It was a massive arena which had the ship, right? The ship that's in the New York Bay, and it basically unlocked, and you progressed through levels, and each level got harder and harder, and it was infinite, right? You could literally go up to that level. No one ever got higher than sort of level 120. But to get there, you had to have had a real min-max build, right? But most of the player base probably dropped off around level 50. But the more you got, the more you unlocked, right? So you started off in one area, and you unlocked. As you progress through levels, you'd earn points, which then you allow you to unlock doors, which open up another area, and it became a bigger playable area. Yeah. Something like that in Anthem would be absolutely doable because they've actually built the groundwork in the way that they've done the Cataclysm arenas in a very similar way.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it feels accessible to the guy that only plays like 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
And would give enough challenge that you could do it like 3 or 4 times and kind of start to figure out how to play it. And the fact that the first couple of weeks you're only going to have these sections open, and then more sections open and more mysteries are there to unlock, I think is very enticing. It's at least enticing to go back in and play it. And I feel like the hardcore group of people that are still playing Anthem, this is going to be enough to really excite them, and I'm hoping that excitement will help kind of those who are still on the fringe will come back in and start to play it a little bit more, and then it just keeps building from there. So we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see what goes on with that. So.
Well, I'm curious if it ends up looking close to the trailer, because when they showed the storms, I mean,
yeah,
it is noticeably not as cool, and I don't like harping on that because I understand that they show you concepts and things that just end up getting sort of naturally neutered by development because that was meant to be a trailer. It was meant to be like, oh, let's get everybody wanting to play the game. And then the reality of development settles in. It's like, we can't have animals stampeding away and lightning and everything because it's just the game wouldn't performing at that level of fidelity and that much going on consoles and everything else. Like, I'm wondering if it'll at least get close to that. I mean, if it's gonna get worse every week, then is it gonna get close to that level of intensity and that feel? Because right now it doesn't seem. It's like it's storming and there's debris and I'm dying, but it doesn't have that. The sky is black and the world's gonna end feel that it was in the original trailer, and
a sense of real threat.
Well, I mean, we do know if you played the beta, it was similar in that it was just the beginning, quote unquote, and so you saw a little bit of stuff up in the sky in the skybox when you looked up, and then it did progressively get worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, maybe it will, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say that my biggest concern right now is, as he was saying, that they're vague in a lot of their answers about the future. And they gave us some reasoning for that today, just how a lot of stuff just hasn't been nailed down. They can't give us specifics. So that's why they're being vague. But I think the biggest concern I have is everything we read in that article about the lack of leadership, the lack of decision-making in the pre-production that led to them having to scramble and build the game in 18 months. If that is still going on, if there's still an internal dysfunction about decision-making, that would be my concern, is you guys have big, giant foundational problems. Who is taking charge and saying, this is what we're doing with this is how we're going to take the loot system forward? Because it's one thing to get lost in the woods and to say very matter-of-factly, we are lost and we need to get out of the woods. okay, that's great, but how are you going to do that? Who's plotting the course? Who has the compass? Who knows how to read the stars? Like, that would be your plan of action on getting out of the woods. I feel like right now we're getting a lot of, we are lost in the woods. Like, they're admitting that things are bad, and that's nice to have the candor and the honesty. But who is going to get us out of here? Like, who's in charge? Like, that would be my only concern. It seems like they're working on things and they're making content. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But I'm like, man, if you guys are still having this internal dysfunction and no one's cracking that whip and saying, this is where we're going, this is how we're proceeding, then I would worry that humongous foundational problems with the loot system and drop rates, incentive, min-maxing, like, those are systemic, far-reaching issues that if they're not addressed head-on, a year from now, the game will still be adrift. It won't really know what it's meant to be yet. And I don't know. I'm hoping that what they told us today, when they kind of gave us some context to why they're being vague, I took it and I thought, okay, I could see that.
And I wish we could.
Yeah, we obviously can't dive into that. Yeah. But we're seeing everything from the outside, so it's like we don't know internally what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
George, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. A ship can't sail without a captain.
Yeah, right.
So this is straight up. It's a straight up point. You know, and it's interesting. Right? You know, John Waller is what the game director is. Fantastic guy. He's got a great gaming history. You got Mike Gamble. You got Ben Ovo as well, and a few others. And I think what you've also seen as well, actually, in the delivery, in the marketing up to the lead up, and obviously you got Mark Dorrar as well. He's another great guy, and you have all these great heads. But even and this is, I think you could actually probably see the early signs of some of these problems in the build up, because all the live streams you had, and all the different seminars, the different workshops, the different interviews, it was always a different person. It was one of the groups, and it's not finger pointing or anything, but they all had their own slightly different vision or different aspects of how the game was going to be played and produced. And if you actually look back at all that marketing material, you actually see that. So now the game's launched, obviously BioWare's gone quiet, and as they should do, right? Because, you know, if they're still being extremely vocal, then they're not working on the problem, right? They're just trying,
you don't want like
cloud it. Right?
Oh, like it's the classic sales tactic. You don't want to overpromise, underdeliver.
Exactly.
You know.
So I think you're absolutely right. It's more about, I think what would be good for the community as a wider thing to know is who is pushing the game's direction now, and what that vision is, right? And even that, we don't know that as game changers, and you know, we have access, and they're keeping that to themselves, which is rightly so. That's the way they operate. And there has always been this veil of this curtain drawn up between the players and the development team and studios, right? There always has been.
Yeah.
But I think it would be, it would set precedent for them and what their vision would be, to stand up and just say who's now running and what the vision is, and how, not necessarily how, and actually how they're going to get there, not what they're going to do to get there, but what their path looks like.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, like, I keep falling back to that, but I mean, to me, all of this feels so familiar because of how it felt with Star Wars Battlefront 2 for me. You know, it feels very similar to that, where in a year we're going to get this outstanding game, you know. And it's so hard for us as gamers to hear, be patient, you know, because, man, there's just so many games out there. And Anthem will always be one of those games that I will always play. So, you know, if other game comes out, you know, Anthem's still going to be there on my shelf, ready to come out when things come along, because it's a live service game. We know how that works. But I feel like, you know, all of you guys, what you're saying is, like, it feels very much on point. Because I think what would help the community, at least, is if we had someone come out and say, I'm the head guy, here's my vision, here's where we're going.
How good did it feel when Bungie did their stream the other day and Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy stand there and they say, we're embracing the MMO's title. This is an MMO action game.
Yeah.
So when I hear that,
it's the first time they've actually came out and really said that.
Yeah.
they did not. Yeah, they avoided MMO. They didn't like. But hearing them say that, you don't have to go into details about how you're going to bolster that. I don't need to know. Here's what we're going to do. You know, and Luke Smith went a little bit further to say we're going to be adding depth. We want to see more stats. You know, more investment from the player.
Right.
And obviously that's specific, but still generic.
Yeah.
But it made me feel good to know.
But at least you have a leader. Yeah.
Your vision. And that's why I kept telling people, it's like, Luke Smith is our Moses. Like, he's going to get us out of the wilderness and into the promised land. Like, this guy can do it. If there's somebody that can get us into a true RPG feel, it's him. Yeah. And I think Anthem could do something similar.
Yeah.
You need to come out and say, we understand that the silence and the lack of updates and the lack of communication right now can be frustrating. Here's where we want to go.
Yeah.
This is the identity that we want for Anthem. This is our vision for what it is. What is the game going to be for the people that love it? And it's going to take us a while to get there. Because I know when Noseworthy and Luke Smith stand up and say this, it's like the game's not going to get there in one update. You know, so when September hits and we get this cool new, you know, DLC, it's one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
It's not the full picture, but I think it gives me confidence when I hear that type of language. So I think Anthem could afford to literally do almost that. Like, who's in charge? Who's driving?
Just to have a leader stand up and say, "This is it right here."
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and this is the identity that we're working towards. Because then the other thing that happens there is, I think too, when you're taking our feedback right now, this is the danger. They're taking our feedback on Anthem as it exists right now.
Yeah.
How is that getting disseminated then and like filtered through the process of like, okay, how does this land on the future version of Anthem?
Yeah. And that may be the purpose of the sole purpose of the player test server is to, I mean, because I really think that the Cataclysm is a good step forward. I think it's going to be enough. I mean, I'm excited. I played it and I'm excited. I'm like, I can't wait to kind of try to find all this other stuff. I do think it's a good step forward, but I completely agree that we need something like, I know they're like erring on the side of caution, right? You know, you don't want to overpromise and say things, but I do wish we could get like at least an idea or a roadmap. But I do know if they say that, you're going to have the same thing that happened on Reddit and on Twitter where like, you promised me this and you can't deliver it right now. And, you know, there was just a firestorm with that stuff, you know. But I wish we could see a little bit clearer picture of where are we moving, where are we going, you know.
Well, and feedback is going to change too, because like now that I know where Destiny ultimately wants to go, whenever I'm engaging in criticism or talking about a system or something they've come up with, I'm gonna adjust my feedback.
Yeah.
So if I knew like where do you want to go with Anthem, then like some of the ideas we heard today, it's like you just filter that out. You're like, no, that's a terrible idea. That's not
the direction. Yeah.
Or that's not where the game is going.
Yeah.
And because I made a lot of videos about Anthem, and I kept coming back to the same thing: is the loot drops aren't enough. And then today, I think I got a clearer picture into how that's not a one size fits all solution. Mm-hmm. It's a symptom of a larger problem, the lack of loot drops. And so I can't really come up with good solutions and ideas right now because the whole thing just feels so nebulous. It's like I don't know where you're taking the game. So when people were talking today, I was just like, everyone's sort of just arguing from their preference as a player, not necessarily arguing for the good of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like at a philosophical level, these would be things we need to put in place or whatever. It was just people arguing from preference. Like, I want to look cool, or I want to feel cool, or I want more puzzles or less puzzles. Like, everybody was just sort of
personal preference, personal taste. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's not going to get us anywhere. So if I think the community and these summits that we're having would be more laser focused and more helpful if we had that identity in our minds of like, this is where the game's headed. So we would suggest things in that lane.
That makes that's some truth in that. Yeah, we can really help out a lot more in kind of guided feedback, focused feedback.
And that's I don't know how much you spent with other development studios and doing stuff, but actually a lot of studios are exactly the same, right? They take you on feedback sessions, and before they give you sort of any inclination of what of what their vision is or where the game's going. They come and ask you about what do you think the feedback of how can we improve the game today. Which they're looking for quick wins, right, or low hanging fruit that's going to do that. But for us to really provide stronger feedback, they need to be able to let us know like, what is the vision. And if they don't know what the vision is, that's not a problem. But tell us what at least a couple of routes that they're thinking of taking it down.
And it may, I mean, to be fair, they may have that vision already, just not wanting to share it yet, and just wanting to see what we suggest first, and see how that would fit into that vision. Because you don't always want to reveal your full hand. About
to a degree.
Game,
Yeah, to a degree, right? But you're not gonna, you're not gonna go and tell Picasso like how to do a brush stroke, right? Or how the picture should look, right? He has a vision of what that picture is going to look like in the end, right?
Yeah.
And the game development's exactly the same, right? Yeah. It's not the same, metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
So it's for us to be able to provide strong and positive feedback, and feedback that's actually going to help them move forward and provide them with a different pair of eyes. I think game development studios in general need to open up just a little bit more into what they want. And I think it's actually a systemic issue across the entire industry.
Yeah.
Because even I spend time with a lot of studios, and they're all the same, right? They keep it, even though you sign NDAs and everything like that, and you could be a trusted advisor, they will still keep you completely locked out.
Yeah.
From what their vision is, which really sort of negates any type of feedback that you give them, and you can spoon feed ideas to them constantly, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just where the industry needs to progress. I think.
So we're going a little bit longer than I thought we would. I mean, we're having some good conversation here. So I want to give just one final thought before we wrap this up. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Cataclysm, do you think it's enough for you to jump back into the game? Just a really quick, condensed.
Yeah, of course. I would openly admit, and I told them today, I haven't picked up the game in 4 weeks, right? Because there's nothing for me to play, and I don't want the game to become a point where I don't want to play it. I want to play Anthem. I'm just not playing because I know I've done everything there, and there's other games to play. I'm a gamer, right?
Yeah.
And Cataclysms is absolutely something that I would come back for. Yeah, I would absolutely put hours into.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know, because for me the investment paths just aren't there. So it's difficult for me to... This happens to me when I try to play rogue games like Dead Cells. I don't feel tethered to the game because when you die, everything resets. And I know people are going to say, well, but you get unlocks. You carry those unlocks with you. When I'm playing a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm unlocking the map, and I'm clearing the map, and I'm growing, and I'm getting stronger, I feel tethered to that experience. I'm invested. And when I play a game like Dead Cells, I know I'm going to get so far, and I'm eventually going to die, and then I have to start all the way over.
Yeah.
And then just the knowledge of that keeps me from being tethered and invested. And I worry right now with Anthem, they're going to do stuff like this that... I don't mean this as a slight, but it's just sort of like a Band-Aid. It's like a temporary bridge that you come back and you kind of run it, but ultimately this isn't the culmination. This isn't the game that you want it to be. So I'm not invested. Like I don't care about what the rewards are because I can't ultimately do what I want to do with my javelins. I can't take them up. I call it the spiral staircase. Like gearing up, getting stronger, and then going up to the next Grandmaster. Like, I can't do that. So it's very difficult for me to feel invested right now. And I know that maybe, since it's going to run for multiple weeks, maybe I will feel like, oh, that'd be pretty cool, go in, grind each day, dip my toe back in. But it's so difficult when I don't even know. That's why I kept bringing up the identity of the game. It's like, I don't even know where you guys are taking the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to be invested. And it made me think of the scene in Lost where John Locke retells the story of Michelangelo staring at it's a giant marble just block, and he's just staring at it day in, day out. And somebody finally asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm working." He was studying it. He was thinking. He was envisioning, and ultimately that marble block, he turned it into the statue of David, like probably the most famous sculpture in existence. And if that's ultimately what Anthem's doing right now, right? They're just sort of staring at this block of marble and they're working, envisioning where the game's going. Until I can see what they see, it's really hard for me to know.
Right.
Are you making the statue David, or are you gonna bust this thing in half?
Yeah.
And so, because I love the core gameplay, and I feel like I would be in a better headspace to come back when they really land this plane.
Right.
It was kind of like that way with No Man's Sky. They did all those little updates, and then they did that huge one, and it was unbelievable. It's like, this is a different game. And I started over fresh from the very beginning. I started brand new. I was like, I want to feel like what this is from the very beginning. And it was very enjoyable. And I feel like with Anthem, I'm kind of doing that. I'm like, I'm just going to wait. I know you guys can get, I trust you guys can get this right.
Right.
But I don't know. Destiny was different. Destiny took so long to get good, but there was something different about it. I was more invested in and more tied to it.
Yeah.
And I hope it does well. I hope the community can feel at least like they've gotten something that is satisfying and enjoyable, but
a little tidbit.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you for joining me. If you could, George, just tell everyone where they can find you again, social media, all that stuff.
So social media is BinaryNumb, so that's binary NUMB. I'm not going to tell you how I came up with that one, but anyway, BinaryNumb. So I've got a Twitch and Mixer, and then you'll see Dark Zone Report for The Division, Twitch, YouTube as well, and then you've got Anthem Universe as well, which is same on Twitter and Twitch.
It's the easiest way to find me is everything is Say No to Rage. So twitch.tv/SayNoToRage, and then Twitter @SayNoToRage. If people want to interact with me, that's the best way to do it.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you for joining me so much. It's been really fun to get to know you guys, and it's been fun hanging out at EA Play. I mean, I've had a ton of fun meeting all these developers, playing all these games. It's been a lot of fun. So guys, if you could, like us on Facebook, leave us a review on iTunes, and you can follow us all on Twitter. And remember, guys, when in doubt, blow it up! Boom.